Hey everybody, welcome back. We're going to be starting our series on the build of the Camaro. For those of you that know me, I've got a 2017 Camaro that we're going to be building. It's going to be a budget build, a junkyard build, or a whatever I have lying around can find used kind of build. So when we first bought the car, it looked something like this. All right, so I bought it for $400. The guy wanted more than that, but I did some bartering and some trading, and got it down to $400 cash out of my pocket and a bunch of other things I had sitting around. So that's we brought it home, got set up here in the garage, and currently it looks something like this. Isn't she pretty? So we got the car. It didn't have an interior in it, and it still doesn't really. The dashboard was all there with the car. The steering column, steering wheel, all that stuff was gone. Seats were gone. Seat belts were gone. All this stuff was it's just pieces I've taken off of it. The trunk is empty. There's no battery. There's no spare tire. There's no gas tank. There is no door panels. There's no door handles. No computer, no wiring whatsoever in the car except for a few of these things. They're just kind of still sticking out, which most of them are going to get X-nayed anyway. But so far, what's been done is I've managed to sit the engine in it. Now, this engine right here came out of a 2005 Hummer H2. Bought that wrecked a couple of years ago. This thing was actually like the week before my wedding in 2017 that I bought it. All right. So I had that sitting there. The engine was sitting there. All the other parts of the Hummer are all completely gone. I do have all the bolts that are in a bin or bucket, I should say, back here. Reason I'm going with that engine, it's a 6-liter LQ4. It did run. The Hummer, as you can see, was rolled over pretty good. It happened at about 85 miles an hour on a highway down near Fayetteville. So I picked that up. It's got compression, all the cylinders. Spark plugs looked okay. Oil looked okay before I took it out. So there's that. Coupled to it, which you can't really see right now because it's sitting in there, is a Turbo 400 transmission. That came out of a 60 or 70 something Chevy. I think it was a Nova, the guy said. I don't know. And you may ask why the Turbo 400. It's not the best. It's not the strongest. It's not the lightest. For me, it was the cheapest. I got it for $50. And that's kind of the spirit of the build here. So a couple of things that we're going to look over. We have the front K-member here, which has got a couple pieces cracked off of it. This is designed to take the impact when it takes a hit, and this car took a hit right here. You can kind of see where the tire got shoved up into the body a little bit. Before I bought the car, we did put it on a frame machine, and these frame horns are dead straight, or the frame rails, I should say, are dead straight. If there's something wrong with them, they usually crack up here because this is all aluminum. So they would be cracked up here, and this is all in really good shape, both sides. So the impact, while it did total the car out because these cars get totaled out really easy, it did knock off a tab that belonged here. It did knock off the tab here, which is just like this one, which is for the radiator support. And if you look at the K-member here, you can see a crack in that weld and in that weld there. So this K-member is probably not, I mean, it's still straight. I mean, you can see that hasn't really moved because of the crack. It just flexed, cracked, and then flexed right back to where it was. The frame horns that came out were obviously shot. So this has been opened up a little bit. That's steel, so that's not really a big deal. That's going to go right back. There's inserts that go in here, and then the horns come off, and they sit on top of these tabs, and that's where the front crash beam goes. You can pick up another one of these from Chevy for $500. I actually have it on order already. So that is going to be replaced with a brand new one, which is also going to make sure that once I go to put that on, if anything is shifted in the frame horn, the structure rails, I'm going to know about it because the new one won't fit on there if anything is tweaked. But I am 99.9% sure, especially because we put it on the frame machine there where I bought it from the shop, that it's going to be fine. So you can see back here I got some motor mounts in for it. I bought a set of motor mounts that are for specifically for the car, but not for the engine. They're from BMR suspension products. Had to modify them slightly to fit because this car is used to having an LT engine, and this is a LQ engine, and the mounting points are a little different. The LT engine, they're wider, so I had to kind of finagle it a little bit. Welded in some reinforcement plates in the back there, which you can kind of see, like this is a reinforcement plate to this, and you can see it better on this side. But it works. It sits the engine in there. This car was not made to have an iron block, so it sits a little bit lower in the front than it should. I don't think I can get really far away from it, and can't really see because there's no fenders on anyway, but it is definitely sitting lower than it should. Brake master cylinder, brake booster. Picked this up off of eBay. Looks in pretty good condition to me. Brake lines were already there. They've been modified to go into a line lock setup that I had. Yes, I know the brake lines look absolutely terrible and there's T's and junctions everywhere in it. But this is all made with stuff I had laying around. Eventually I may decide to go to a nicer setup, but who knows. As long as it works, I don't care. Fuel lines, which are going to be taken out because we're going to run AN lines up the fuel rails. So all that stuff's from the Hummer. It did come with all the front suspension components. Obviously, the sway bar end link is a little broken here, which you can kind of see. But drag race car, you don't need a sway bar, so that's going to come off. All the steering components are there. There was conflicting reports about whether we can make that power steering work. People said yes, some people said no. I've given it the old college try for about 20 minutes and have decided that I don't really need power steering. Because how much power steering do you need going straight with skinny tires? Not a whole lot. Honestly, I'd probably be better off with no power steering. We did pick up a stock steering column. It even has a turn signal switch. Not that I'm ever going to use it, but it has it. Got myself an NRG quick release steering wheel, so if I can do it with one hand, which I don't think I can, but it is a quick release. It's got the funky little buttons. I mean, it's high tech over here. I mean, both buttons are going to have to do the same thing at the way it's wired now, but we'll see if we can change that. Again, not because it's the best, because it was the cheapest. In the back here, we're going to do a fuel cell. Now, this is where I am going to spend some money. It did come with the taillights and the rear bumper and all that. It does have the full suspension underneath of it. Rear end, rear diff, all nine, it's all under there. It was a 8-speed, so it does have the 277 rear gears on it. Not overly excited about that, but it'll go down the track event. You know, more power, less gearing, whatever. Who knows? The plan is to get it running, driving, moving under its own power down the track, just like this, basically. Obviously with an intake manifold on, not the lift plate, but naturally aspirated. Probably going to use the truck manifold that came with the Hummer, which still have. It's right there. Not going to use the throttle body because I don't feel like dealing with drive-by-wire, but I have the intake, the fuel rails, the injectors, all that stuff's up there. Alternators right here, starter. I do have this badass 4-pass radiator that I did pick up for the buggy project that I had started and decided to switch gears and go to the drag racing project because of Sharon and the Valkyrie V doing their racing thing. I figured I want to get into racing too, so I did keep that. I did have this fuel cell, but that's not going to work. It's too big for the Camaro. So I'm going to spend some money on getting a double fuel cell and water tank that sits in the back here. I do have already a fender for it, a front bumper, and a hood. I have the hood hood hinges. No idea what these are. Hopefully they don't need them. I don't know. I do have the hood hinges for it. I have closed up the firewall. I'm going to leave this in here because there's a cowl that goes across of it. So I'm going to leave this in here for the, air venting and whatnot. I don't think it's going to catch fire, but who knows. As you can see, we got plenty of room next to the engine on that side. This side's not quite as much room because of that steering shaft, but the idea for the exhaust is going to be something like this. Comes out here and comes straight forward, and then I'm going to probably go down and around somewhere and do a fender exit, mostly because eventually the plan is to put this thing with some turbos, and I'm thinking that twin turbos would be nice on the Camaro, and who knows, that's going to be where I have to spend some money. As far as a wiring harness and everything goes, I do have stock computer, stock harness, everything from the Hummer, but I don't want to use it, and it's not because of a laziness kind of thing. It's more of a, I don't have HP tuners, and I don't know HP tuners, and I'm not very good with tuning anything anyway, and I do want to do a lot of tuning on this by myself. Obviously I'm going to have some help, but I do want to do some of this tuning by myself. So, with that being said, I have a Holley Terminator MPFI complete system with a 6.86 Holley Pro Dash. Obviously spent a bunch of money on that. Well, my wife did. That was a Christmas present, all that stuff. But that's going to be some high dollar stuff going in there. Obviously, the fuel system, I'm going to do high dollar stuff because I don't want any of that leaking and causing an issue. I don't want a fire. And just so, yeah, this stuff will be thoroughly tested before it's 100% put into use. I know that people are going to yell at me, the brakes are no good, and they probably aren't, but they do stop the car very well right now. I have tested them, even though the rotors are rusty and whatnot. The car does stop very well right now, and the line lock does work. So all that's been tested with a charger. But for right now, the idea here is to get the transmission crossmember fabricated. I'm going to try to use a stock one and fabricate it to work with the Turbo 400. I don't know if it's going to. If not, we're going to use a steel one. Get the engine all situated. Get that K-member changed out. Get the front frame horns on it and the front crash beam to go on it. Get a belt. Get the alternator on there. Just all the stuff. Get the car to run. Then we're going to get a drive shaft made. Going to put a seat in it. I'm probably going to go with a Phase Tech seat runner. They go right into the stock mounting spots. It's not really that's the stock seat mounting. Is you have things that go there. It's kind of like a hook like that, and it goes in, it slides back and clips there, and then it bolts in right back here. Phase Tech makes them so that you just put that in there, and it's got multiple bolt holes for multiple seats. So I'm probably just going to get one of those and put a Kirky seat in there. Get a Phase Tech 4-point harness or 4-point roll cage, just basically for a harness bar. The thing's not going to be fast enough to really need anything else right off the rip. I'm just trying to get it to do its thing. So that's kind of the idea with that. Other than that, I am open to suggestions for what anybody thinks I should do. Keep in mind that this is going to be as much budget and junkyard build as I can. The oil pan is F-body oil pan from a junkyard. The throttle body that's going to be going on that intake up there is from a junkyard. The radiator's been sitting around. I had that. The engine I picked up from a junked Hummer. Transmission was a $50 transmission from somebody. Well aware I'm going to have to rebuild it. I'm not under any misconceptions of that. All the parts I've gotten to put the front end together have all been used off of a wrecked Camaro here, wrecked Camaro there, or whatever. Because I'm not spending money. The headlights for this particular model Camaro alone, just the headlights, the left side is $1,200, the right side is $1,300 from the dealer. It's $2,500 for 2 headlights. Not interested. So we're going to try to do something else. But that's where we're at. That's what it's looking like. Okay, so there you go. So first step is going to be running, driving, moving under its own power, and stopping. Stopping would be good. Just like this, naturally aspirated. Just truck engine, 325 horsepower when it was new, which it will not have now anymore. That's not possible. Probably the body, some sort of body on it, wired up, seat, roll bar, all that stuff. Just get it moving right as it is. Step 2, which is probably going to be next winter, is going to be to do the turbo system on it. Again, as cheap as possible. I'm going to spend money on the turbos. I'm probably going to go with a mirror image precision setup turbo type of deal. Way too much turbo for the engine. But the idea is I want to get the turbos, fabricate up the whole exhaust system, the intake system, all that kind of stuff. Depending on what parts I want to use, I don't know. We'll see if I can find something cheap that's on like racingjunk.com or I don't know, somewhere else. Somebody's got to have some of these parts I want or need. I can make this work. I know that the turbos are really, precision turbos are expensive and they're not the cheapest option, not necessarily the best option, but there's a lot of support for them. The engine, as of right now, is not going to be pulled apart. I am going to start this engine or attempt to start this engine exactly as it is. I am not going to pull it apart and freshen up the bearings, freshen up the rings. No. Start it the way it is. If it doesn't start, we'll worry about that. If it starts, runs, moves it under its own power again. When I do the turbo system, then I'm going to pull it out, gap the rings, do new bearings, camshaft, lifters, go through it to set up for the turbo. Yes, I know that has to happen. I'm not under any misconceptions that when I put turbos on it, I can't just run the stock block. The cam wouldn't like it. The lifters would fail, and I'd shove a bunch of bearing material through 2 very expensive turbos and then have to send them out and, after half a pass down the track because they won't make it a full pass. But for right now, get it running under its own power, NA moving around. Next step of the build would be to do the turbo system and everything else. Third step of the build would be to not kill myself and, fix everything that's going to break. Rebuild the transmission because that's going to break. Fix the rear end because that's going to split in half, literally. Probably something with a parachute if I'm going stupid fast. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, not anytime soon, anyway. I do need to get the title and all the parts put together so I can get this thing registered and insured because all the races that I'm going to want to get into, I'm going to have a titled, insured vehicle. So depending on how much I can slip through the inspectors as far as the rebuilding process, like does it have to actually have the real headlights or can I use, the little LED strip lights headlights? I don't know. I'm going to try because I don't want to pay $2,500 for headlights or even $800 for used headlights. So we're going to find out. But that's where we're at with the car. That's what we're at going on. And we'll see you when we start building it.